That's the good stuff.
Welcome back, everybody, to Goodwill Podcasting with Dan and Stone. Connor is out today for personal reasons, but no matter, because the two of us went down to Yavin 4, and we collected ourselves a rebel. And that is Garrett from Duck Takes, who is here today with us to talk about Andor, the entirety of Andor, episodes 1 through 6 that are currently out right now for, oh my God, May the 4th be with us, y'all. We're recording this on National Star Wars Day, and maybe we'll put it out on Revenge of the 5th. Who knows? But yeah, Garrett, thanks for being with us again. Still bright early in the morning. You just recorded Thunderbolts with us, and we're still going strong.
Yep, absolutely. I'm just happy to be here talking Marvel and Star Wars, all the things we love.
And you just finished Andor last night, so you're on the high of what happened at the end of episode 6.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was cheesing pretty hard at the end of that episode.
Danny, you watched it early. How long ago did you watch it? Did you watch it the exact same day that you didn't watch it the exact same day it premiered, right?
You asking me, Stone?
Yeah.
I watched them last Sunday, I want to say. I'm about to watch the rest. I'm about to watch 7 through 9, like literally right after this. So I'm excited. Yeah, I watched all of it. Like I hadn't seen I'd seen like parts of season 1, but I hadn't watched the entire thing. So I rewatched the entirety of season 1, and I watched the entirety of season 2. So it was a lot to absorb, but I love it, man. I think it's so good, and we'll get into if people are watching it, liking it or not. But I think it's a really interesting show.
So we talked about it before we jumped on here. Gary, you're talking about your steelbooks that you had. There's only going to be 2 seasons of Andor. I don't have any steelbooks, but I know they came out with an Andor steelbook. I might have to get. I mean, just having 2. That's the thing with physical media, and we talked about it. It takes up a lot of space. But if you only got two steelbooks, 2 different seasons of Andor, I think that might be my first steelbook I get, maybe.
That'd be a good steelbook. Have you seen the design? Does it look cool?
Let's look it up. It looks like ass. And we're just like, nah, never mind. I would say you said that. Go ahead. My bad.
No. I was just gonna say because there's some shitty movies out there with very cool steelbooks. So and vice versa. You got great movies and the steelbooks are just not up to par. So
it could be better. Yeah. Hold on, let me show you. Hold on. Look at this. Look at me holding up. It's just like Andor on the front.
Oh, okay.
So it could be better. I do like the even though the movie was not very good, the Flight Risk movie. I think I saw it's steelbook and it's got like a little cover on it, and you're taking off Mark Wahlberg's hat and it reveals like his baldness. Yeah. Like the hat is attached to the cover, and you take off the cover and it's just him bald. Thought that was a pretty smart idea for a steelbook.
More creativity than the whole movie, probably.
You said Blake is watching this right now. Is he caught up?
He is not caught up. He's watching it right now. I think he's on episode 5 of season 1, if I'm not mistaken. So he's got a lot. He's got a lot of catching up to do from when we do this, finale of season 2.
Dude, he's about to get to that heist with all like I remember seeing all the colors shooting through the sky at the end of like the heist episode, which I think was the end of episode 6 of season 1, and just being like, this is just incredible. Like it's so stunning, and I'm just like, why isn't this in movies right now? Is what I was thinking.
No, it's amazing. I love Andor is like one of my top projects to ever come out of Star Wars. It's so good.
And just like no one expected it.
Yeah.
Like the side, not the side character. I guess he was the co-lead of Rogue One, but I feel like no one was excited for this. But when you realize that Tony Gilroy was attached to it, the showrunner, helming the project, especially because I think the rumor is that Gareth Edwards had a different Rogue One that looked maybe a little bit different, and then Tony Gilroy kind of came up. I think there's actually, if you watch trailers of Rogue One, you can see what the original ending was going to be. There's footage that does not appear in the movie, but then Tony Gilroy came in. I think he rewrote a lot of the ending of that, and I obviously we love that he did that. I'm assuming you guys love that he did that because I think through whatever connection he had with that character, he's like, yeah, let me do a whole show about it. Which I think he came out and said this is the best thing and his most personal thing that he's ever done, which is crazy because some of the films that he'd done is just incredible. But
yeah, and it being a Star Wars story, kind of
best.
Yeah.
best Star Wars story we've ever gotten. And, that's the hot take. So let's get the hot takes out of the way. I know what Dan thinks. Garrett, is this the best the Star Wars that has ever been for you, or you got the OG trilogy there, Revenge of the Sith? We just talked about you rewatching it.
Yeah, I don't know about the best Star Wars has ever been for me. It is up there, but yeah, no, I still hold a special place in my heart for Revenge of the Sith, Empire Strikes Back, and even for me, like I love Clone Wars. We got season 7 of Clone Wars to talk about as well. So
yeah, I gotta watch Clone Wars, man. I still haven't watched Clone Wars.
it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I think Star Wars lends itself really well to animation. I think it allows you to do so much and like tell their stories, and like I definitely split off animated Star Wars from live action. I wouldn't try to pit them against each other because I think it's just like a different world.
Yeah.
But what's your favorite Star Wars movie then, if you had to choose?
It's Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we talked about the rewatches a little bit with our Thunderbolts discussion. We were talking about it, and I wanted to say it there, but I didn't get the chance to. But when I did, Dan, you didn't rewatch Revenge of the Sith in theaters, right?
No,
okay.
I don't like the movie.
All right, we just had like all of our listeners just click off. That's great, awesome, appreciate it. Now it's just the three of us and probably Connor, who's going to edit this, that'll listen to this episode, but that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I will say what's funny. I don't know if I watched Revenge of the Sith in theaters when it originally came out, because it came out in 2005, so I would have been 7 or 8 years old, which would have been prime time to watch it. But I don't think I did. But it's funny because I rewatched it. I remember I had the DVDs and I rewatched it on repeat. I used to fall asleep watching movies, probably not the best thing for my brain, but whatever. And I used to be able to. I memorized like all the lines of the film and everything like that. And it's funny. Before we went, my wife came with me, and before we went, I guess I'm not part of the Star Wars culture. I love Star Wars, but I was quoting the, you turned her against me, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was saying that entire sentence or that entire scene before we went, and I didn't realize like that is the scene, because when I went and watched this in Disney Springs, so there's a lot of big old Star Wars heads there, and when that came on, and usually I would get annoyed at this, the entire crowd recited those lines, and it was the funniest thing ever, and I loved it. It was so hilarious.
Yeah, I had a few people in my theater that I could hear them. They were doing it quietly, but I could hear them like whispering the words to themselves. I'm like, bro, come on. We all know. We know the memes. Like I'm one of those people where if I just how they'll like have all the letters, the first letter of each word, and you can say I can say the whole thing. If you just like show me that, I can tell you what each word is.
I feel like Revenge of the Sith has like really, really, really strong nostalgia value. I feel like for so many people, like I think it was just really iconic, and like some of it, I mean, it made some great memes. Like some of it's funny, but people really, really like the movie. I think it's interesting, and I think like it's funny to see generationally what people's favorite Star Wars is and like why that is. I think it's really interesting to talk about.
And usually I really like theater behavior. I even texted Dan beforehand, and I was like, this crowd is so loud right now, and I've never been in a theater where it's this noisy, and I'm really hoping that when the movie happens they quiet down, and they did. It was very funny for them to be like, Master Skywalker, and he jolts out the lightsaber, and everyone in the crowd's like, yeah, like he's about to kill the youngling.
They cheered. My crowd cheered when he brought out the lightsaber. I was like, why are we cheering for this?
I saw a video though, and this went pretty viral, but if I saw this, even though it's like disruptive to my movie going experience, I would think it's pretty cool. It was like the two guys who had memorized Obi-Wan and Anakin's fight, and they were like in front of like right underneath the screen, like reenacting it. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing: if that wasn't rehearsed as much as it was, I mean, you can look it up if you've never seen it. But I would they were like spot on with the timing of when it started, and they were like really good at it. I'm like, it's like I saw people comment like, "This is what people need at the movies to get them back in." I was like, "Okay, calm down now."
Yeah, honestly, if somebody was that accurate with it, I would definitely be impressed. But yeah, I would not encourage that behavior.
Yep, a lot of do when those lines hit, everyone was like chanting, and it was just funny watching me and my wife. And I got to admit, at the end, I was, you have done that yourself. I kind of chimed in a little bit too, just because the crowd was doing it. Even though I don't condone that kind of behavior, but it is insane. I think it beautifully worked out the fact that Andor and the re-release of Revenge of the Sith came out at the same time. Like, we haven't had this much Star Wars brain, this much excitement for Star Wars in a very long time.
Yeah.
But it's funny because we'll talk about it. We'll talk about getting into Andor and like what's happening this season. There's a lot of people out there, and I mean, we could just talk about it. Like I think the number one Star Wars creator for a really long time was Star Wars Theory, and it's a very popular YouTuber who's talked about it for years and years, and he just doesn't like Andor and doesn't think that this is what Star Wars needs to be. I mean, we can get into it, but Andor's I was thinking about how many layers, and we're getting to season 2, how many layers are going on in season 2 right now, especially towards the end of episode 6.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not for the smooth brain individuals. There's like 6 or 7, it's how intricate this writing is. There are like 6 or 7 storylines that not only have stories within themselves, but you have to pay attention and have to know how those 7 factors factor into one of another. Like, why are these people here?
Cop out though. Like, just put your fucking phone down. Put your fucking phone down and watch the show. Yeah. Just watch the show, and it's not like, oh, you have to be smart to watch. It's like, no, just watch the fucking show and absorb it. Like,
I just want to clarify: are you calling Star Wars Theory a smooth brain individual?
No, I'm not necessarily calling him that, but I would say it's just the fact that people don't want, like, and I said this when I talked about people not watching the show. I think that Star Wars can be anything you want. It can be skeleton crew. It can be animation. This is the most serious Star Wars has ever been, and I think gatekeeping the fact that no, it should be the Force. It should be lightsabers. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you are restricting yourself of good content when you're saying what your fandom should be and what it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
The more good stuff if I can get like a Goonies, like the Skeleton Crew, I haven't watched it yet, but I heard that's really good. If you can get that and you can get Andor out of Star Wars, why wouldn't you want that? No matter how different they are from one another.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like, we have, and I love that, like, this show just like kind of shows like the effects of, the main movies and like what this has on real people. And that's really what it is it's like real stories told in the Star Wars universe. And I think that's where they thrive a lot, actually. Cause I mean, like, because, basically this is a whole spy espionage. Like, it is a spy and like espionage series. And then you also have things, like the Mandalorian. Like, yes, it's Star Wars, but it's a freaking Western, dude. It's just a straight up Western of a bounty hunter.
Yeah, and I think, like, it's funny we just talked about the Thunderbolts because, like, this has been said to death. I don't need to say it, but, like, a lot of people have talked about the fact that the MCU did well when it allowed movies to have, like, personality and a unique aesthetic. And, like, you'd bring in a director that you knew was able to make a particular movie and say, make your genre movie, give us your style. And that movie had a unique feel to it, not just these are all Kevin Feige movies. It all feel exactly the same. They're different characters, different tones, etc., but they're all going to talk the same. It's all going to feel the same. It's all going to look the same. That's not interesting, right? Like, I don't need Star Wars to all be the same. And, like, it gets to the point where with these fans, it's like, what do you want? Like, you get something like The Acolyte, you hate that. You call it this and that. You get something like this now, Andor, which could not be more different. You hate that. You get something like Skeleton Crew, which couldn't be more different. You hate that. It's like, y'all just want to be mad. And, like, I'm down to criticize stuff, but, like, at a certain point when you just get something that is objectively really high quality and you just categorically dismiss it, like, you're just being an asshole. Like, it's disingenuous. And, like, if you just want to be angry at the thing you say you're a fan of and you've been angry for 10 years, like, are you a fan? Like, why don't you just watch something else? Like, it bugs me. And I think, like, this might not be your favorite, Garrett, but I think, like, this is the best. I think we could maybe say this is the best script we've ever gotten. This is the best dialogue. Like,
I'll give you
writing
that.
on a different level of, like, in terms of, like, the, oftentimes I feel like I'm watching, like, the better parts of Game of Thrones with the dialogue here. Like, that's what it's like. So it pisses me off, man. Some Star Wars fans, like,
it's a very toxic fan base. I will give you that. And yeah, no, I'll definitely give you the right. Yeah, the writing is some of the best we've ever seen come out of Star Wars, which is, obviously one of the biggest strong suits for this show, which is why it gained the popularity that it did, because it's definitely not getting it from the character name. People heard Andor, they were like, "Who the hell is that?" But yeah, no, this like honestly, yeah, you were talking about put down the phone, dude. I'm like scared to eat watching this show. Like, I seriously am. Like, I was eating dinner last night while watching this, and I, was not paying attention, and like an important conversation happened. I was like, all right, back it up. 20 seconds. I was like, what just happened? What were they just talking about?
Yeah, got rewind.
Because and especially because you have so many like subtle conversations, because they have to be subtle because they're in espionage, and like sometimes like I have a hard time like figuring out like when they're, or not a hard time, but like you have to pay attention to like when they're breaking their character, like when he just went to Gorman, and he's playing the character, and you just have to like watch for when he switches to now he's back to being Cassian and talking like himself. But it's just, yeah, no, it's very interesting to watch, to see these people live these double lives and go back and forth between each person.
This might be a hot take, but just I guess getting into season 2. Originally, I believe the show was supposed to be 5 seasons, and what we're seeing with season 2 is the 4 seasons, follow-up seasons that Tony Gilroy was going to make, like concised into 3 episode arcs.
Yes.
And honestly, I think it works better. And the reason why I want to say that, obviously I want more Andor, but I think the storylines of what he's trying to say with season 1 and season 2 are really effective.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that he's saying 2 completely different things, I think if season 2 or season 5, we had a season 2 that went through season 5 and it was all saying the exact same thing, it wouldn't hit as hard. But season 1 is just about convincing one guy, really, but just showing the audience why a rebellion needs to start. And obviously we're seeing that through Andor, but we're seeing that through all the characters. So, all right, that hooks you. We understand at the end of season 1, the prison escape, all of that, like this needs to happen now. This rebellion needs to happen now. We need a rebellion. Season 2 comes around. A rebellion's really fucking hard to get done.
Yeah.
Like, it is difficult. And that is all season 2 really is so far. We have a really good moment between, we'll get into it, but Bix and Andor at the end of episode 6, where it's like, I feel like it's the one moment where you have like a little satisfaction. You're like, oh, something went well. But it's a whole lot of people making mistakes and people messing up and people not trusting one another. And there's so many layers to it, and you get everyone's perspective as well. You have people who won't reveal, who their connections are. You won't tell you where they're going next. Mm-hmm. The whole thing with Gorman, and the fact that it's such good writing. There's a rebellion happening possibly on Gorman, but Luthen needs to make sure that these people can be a part of his rebellion.
Yeah.
So he has to send Andor to go see if they're up for the task. Then Andor says, no, they're not. And he's like, no, I really want them. Let me send someone else. Oh, shit, Andor was right. Look what happened to your people, who went and to scope these people out. Like, I love the layers of this story. Everyone's storyline, I don't think there's a single storyline where I'm like invested at the exact same level. And especially when it came to the end of episode 6, I was like, man, I really miss where Andor and Bix are, man. Like, I haven't seen them that much. And then you get that very end, and I was like, oh, that was pretty satisfying.
Yeah, I think what's interesting with the show, I think that moment might be satisfying on paper, but I think when you think about like the repercussions from that, either from Luthen or from the Empire's response, I don't think the show will necessarily allow you to have satisfaction for very long.
Just right now. Until the new episodes premiere.
That was just a taste. It was just a taste.
No, we're gonna rip that away from me real quick.
But no, I do love this entire thing of like how they have to build up the rebellion, because I feel like, especially when we think of Star Wars and the Rebels, we think of it as this well-oiled machine. You got Leia at the head of command and everything like that, and that's our immediate picture. But it took I love that this is showing us it took a while to get there, because this is like the most inefficient system. We got Saw with his own agenda. We got Luthen with his own agenda, and they're both, and they don't really want to work together. Sometimes they have to. And yeah, they're just doing whatever they can to kind of like mess with the Empire right now. It's not like a huge organized effort to bring them down. It's just like, let's just bomb this, do that, and that's about it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, seeing like basically you're getting a 5-year runway up until the rebellion, and I mean, I don't want to spoil anything. Like, I think what this show is leading up to is basically the spark of the full-on rebellion with what's coming, and I think that's going to be really effective to see. I think the show will probably end at the right spot. Like, I wish we were getting more than 2 seasons, but like, 24 episodes, 45 minutes to an hour, like it's telling a good, well-paced story, and I think it'll end at a good spot. That'll probably be pretty devastating, but yeah, I think this show is interesting because one thing we just talked about with Marvel, like Star Wars is up until now is very fun. It's entertaining. I can only watch so much of completely incompetent villains that I don't take seriously. Like the joke about stormtroopers like not even being able to shoot straight. Like it's funny, but at a certain point I'm like, why there's no stakes here. Like nothing's ever going to happen. And I think like
Brasso, R.I.P.
Seeing the Empire actually have competence and seeing the Empire like calculating the rebellion and understanding what they're trying to do. And at the same time, you still see incompetence in pockets, and you still see dysfunction in terms of their leadership and people squabbling for power. Like in any system, you're always going to see. And you see the same thing in the rebellion, but there are people in the Empire that are like Deidre, right? Who are capable. And you see that with Krennic too, with Ben Mendelsohn's character. And like there are people to fear, and you see like the Empire earn the rebellion, right? Like you see the things that they do that cause people to have this reaction of violence, which at a certain point, violence is like the only way you can respond to some of the stuff you're seeing. So it's really well thought out, and fleshes out the Empire and the rebellion so well. From a variety of angles.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say one critique that I have, only of this season. That's like the only critique I have of this season so far. Is I think that everything that happened on Yavin 4 took a little bit too long. I guess it does apply to what season 2 is trying to say. How you have this group who are part of the rebellion that don't necessarily realize that they're part of the rebellion, and Andor is trying to convince them of that. The fact that not only do they not trust him, but they have rebellion within their rebellion. They don't get along with each other, and there's this whole like, confrontation that happens between them. The only thing I critique about that is I think that lasted a little bit too long. I was very shocked that we've been waiting for Andor for 3 years. Let's go. Is that he's kind of on this little planet away from everyone for 3 episodes. Yeah. A little bit disappointing to me, and I think that's also, but the fact that he was on that is going to be very important for future episodes because the rebellion was on, and episode 4, A New Hope was on Yavin 4, so I think that definitely that planet is going to tie back into maybe the end of the season. That is, in my opinion, the only critique from me that I have of this season so far. Is I wish there was more for Andor to do. I wish we saw more of him actually trying to steal that ship at the beginning, maybe lengthen that out a little bit. Maybe that should have been the entirety of episode 1, and then Yavin 4 could have been just episode 2, then episode 3 could have been him getting back to Bix and Brasso.
I like that. Honestly, yeah, I was intrigued by like that station that he was at in the beginning. I feel like they could have shown him doing a little bit more like undercover work in that first episode, leading up to him stealing it. It could have like. Wait, was the end of the episode? No, the end of the episode wasn't him stealing it, was it? That was like
no, it was right. It was right. At the
that was right.
Yeah,
I feel like him stealing it could have been the end of that episode.
I guess you have to catch people right away though. Like give them it's a big action set piece right at the beginning of and it does factor in. The very first thing that happens in the entire second season factors into the theme of the season in general is the fact that it was the wrong ship and they weren't prepared, and still even they're trying to plan all this stuff out and it still doesn't go according to plan. And it does really, I think the quickness of it really works out. But I think Yavin 4 just lasted a little bit too long for me personally.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of people say that. It didn't bother me as much because I thought I like getting to see other, other planets and other groups of people and other, things that are happening, and I think it fits like the tone of the show and kind of what the show has to say. Also, you do have so many other storylines and so many other characters. Like, you can't spend that much time on Cassian all the time. Like, there has to be time to develop these other storylines. So I feel like that maybe was kind of like strategic writing to an extent. So they had that time to go other places. But it didn't bother me as much because it really was just episode 2 and then the end of episode 3, he's showing up to, kind of save the day with Bix and all. But plus, you have the 12 episodes to work with. So, but have you guys been enjoying season 2 as much as season 1 so far? Or have you felt a difference in terms of like the story or the tone or what it's doing? Like, what do you feel like there's any kind of differentiation there?
So I think the tone is pretty much the same. I think the tone matches pretty well. As far as enjoyment, I mean, I feel like it's just a very different story than what we had in the first one. So it's obviously not the same thing at all. I think the first season was like maybe a little bit more fun because like the stakes were a little bit higher. Especially when it came to like the whole heist scene and everything. Also, I'm still wondering what happened to that money. Did they use that money that they took? I'm like actually so mad that Cassian only took his like 200,000 that he was from. I was like, bro, I would take 2 million if I were you. I was like, I don't know why he was so limited with what he took, but I mean, I feel like for season 2, it's because we're already attached to these characters and we already like know what's going on and we already care about these characters. That I am interested in like what's happening in their lives, even if it is like the slower pace side of like what goes on during a rebellion with like the politics and everything like that, and having to be all sly and sneaky. So I'd say as far as enjoyment, also the same, but just in like a different way.
Yeah, it's hard for me to compare them because I'm honestly going by episode, right? And that's kind of something easy that you can do with Andor. Like, because they're all 3 episode arcs. So how was my high when it came to the end of episode 6 to my high at the end of episode 6 with season 2? Yeah. Honestly, probably the same. Way different stuff that's happening, but the whole heist happening in season 1. But like when Krennic is there and they're at that art dealership and there's so many people there. Yeah, the anxiety there was insane, and the fact that Mothma and Krennic are at each other's throats, and I just wasn't expecting that. I'm like, this is some good stuff right here. But what you said, Garrett, I think it's the fact that I like season 2 a little bit better, and I think it is because you are on this rebellion ride with these characters, and you're invested in them. Starting it, and how difficult it is, and stuff pops up, and I feel like you're with them on this journey. And the one moment I'm thinking of, and I think I texted Dan this, but I think it's in episode 4, where Cassian goes to Gorman and it doesn't work out, and he visits Luthen right after that. And him and Luthen have that exchange on the ship of basically what is like the dilemma that is going on right now. The fact that Luthen really wants them to be part of the rebellion, but Cassian Andor has no faith in them. And they're both giving their reasoning for why Gorman should be part of the rebellion, and I cannot decide who is right. Because especially after what happens at the end of episode 6 with the rebels that do get sent to Gorman, I'm like, Cassian was right the entire time. But should we even try in the first place? And that's what Luthen is trying to convince him of. So I was just sitting there and I was like, I get both perspectives. And that is a feeling that I had that I don't think I had at episode 4 of season 1.
Okay.
I think the show is going to show you who's right. And I
probably Luthen.
I also think I hear what you're saying, but I also think like Luthen is a sociopath.
Yeah.
Like Luthen doesn't care that Gorman is quote unquote part of the rebellion. Luthen is just as happy to see them literally all die and the rest of the galaxy say, man, that was fucked up. Let's actually get this going now. Luthen just sees whether they rebel and they're somewhat effective and they do damage, cool. If they rebel and they literally are all slaughtered, cool. Like his ultimate goal is just the destruction of the Empire. Like he is completely consumed to the point that, and he lays it out in his monologue, which is the most, probably the most like famous part of this entire show so far. He is really barely different from some of the people in the Empire, right? Like, and if he wasn't invested in this cause, like if he was on the side of the Empire, like he'd probably be having just as much fun doing what he's doing. Like, and I think if he saw the rebellion be successful, he feels like someone that would probably maybe start another rebellion within the rebellion. Like he'd find someone to have an issue with and just keep going because he's so consumed with just this person that he is. Who he was is just completely gone. And I think, I don't think he really values pretty much anyone outside of their capacity to support what he wants.
Do you get that a little bit at the end of episode 6, though, with what he did for Bix? Do you see a little bit of his humanity there, or do you think he has an ulterior motive?
This is the person that is supplying Bix with her drugs that she's clearly addicted to. So, like, I
Wait,
don't know.
is he
supplying her?
Yes.
I thought he found it and he was
No,
like,
he didn't like that. He wasn't on board with that.
Yeah, I thought he was like, oh, I see you got into this basically.
No, he's giving it to her, and she says to him, "Oh, I just use this for sleep." Yeah. But I think what's going to happen. This is very dark. I think what's going to happen with Bix is he's going to start viewing Bix as a distraction for Cassian from the rebellion.
Yeah.
And I think where that could go is pretty bad. But
yeah, no.
To me, I think like he might have some like base level feeling towards her, but I think like if he starts viewing her as something that will be a distraction, because Cassian's changing as a person. Like we're seeing him start to actually open up, express emotion. You saw him get a little goofy with Bix, and be like kind of flirty and stuff, and like seemed like he was actually happy recently. I think you hadn't seen that before. Like I think that might start to drive a wedge there between him and Luthen.
Yeah, no, but clearly Luthen does not value human life at all. Like if it means that it will spark a greater resistance against the Empire, yeah, he's happy to see you. I mean, he literally said it. Gorman will burn. It'll burn brightly. If they go down.
Hard line. That was a good line.
No. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I thought that was good. But I do think in the long run of a rebellion, I think Luthen is right. Because you need dramatic change. You need something extreme like that to inspire people to rebel against this tyrannical government. And that's kind of like that's kind of been their goal this entire time, is to like just provoke the Empire more and more. We're going to keep pissing them off to the point that they have to react to us. And this reaction is what we want out of the Empire, because that's going to make people feel more constricted. It's going to make people hate the Empire more, and it's going to make them want to join their cause.
You just mentioning that, Garrett, it makes me think about the fact that I wonder if we're going to see, and the fact that we're seeing a common theme of if you rush things, you do it sloppily, right? The fact that Luthen and his, I can't remember her name right now. There's so many characters, but his right-hand girl, they have so many microphones out there in the public that they let a fake artifact go by them, and now they have a microphone that is in jeopardy of getting found because they didn't realize that they had a phony, right? Just because they're so spread out.
I don't think that was them. That was a different collector. That wasn't Luthen's piece. That was the fake. It was a different piece.
Oh.
It was a different person that Skulden bought it from. It wasn't Luthen's piece, but because he found that fake, he was just going to have them all checked. So Luthen kind of just got caught in the crossfire of that going on.
I got you. I'm wondering if because the rebels are pressuring the Empire so much, I'm curious if they will rush the Death Star, which causes them to basically not build it to its fullest capacity, which allows there to be a hole that allows it to be blown up in A New Hope.
No. The hole is put in by Mads Mikkelsen's character as.
Oh, my bad. Okay,
yeah.
I forgot about Rogue One. My bad.
It was a plant. Yeah.
I thought that could have worked, but Rogue One just ruined that, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, so you guys talking about?
Sorry, but I mean that could actually go both ways though, because maybe like they were rushing it and they didn't have it like double checked or like a certain security measure about the final design. So I mean, I feel like it could both work. You have somebody who was able to put that design in there for it to get blown up, and they didn't take the time to double check it and make sure that the Death Star was solid. So
with you guys talking about Luthen so much, I have to bring it up. And curious how you think about the comparison of these two characters. Is he just Cecil from Invincible?
Low-key, yeah.
No, I know you really love Cecil, Dan.
I think there's a difference there. I don't think Cecil is as much of a like. I think Luthen is legit like sociopath. Like I think he's legitimately a sociopath. Like I don't think he has any value at all. I think Cecil has like awareness of other people existing.
Cecil has a conscience.
Here's the thing. Yes, I agree with that, and I also think like Cecil does what he does for the world. I think Luthen does what he does with the presentation of he's doing this for, what I forget his quote, but he basically says like, he's destroying whatever good is inside himself for someone else's future. Like I think he does what he does for himself. Like I think he's completely consumed. I think it's his ego. I think he enjoys it to some extent. I think Cecil is just has an immense concern about the world and about other people, and like he knows he's at a massive disadvantage. I do think they will both make whatever sacrifice they need for their cause, but I do think Luthen is more selfish in a way, I guess.
Do we know a whole lot about his backstory? I don't think we know. Yeah.
No. We know nothing about this guy other than that he sells, antiques that he finds.
How wild would it be if randomly? I think this would like disrupt the show tremendously, but if like one of his sons play him in like a flashback episode and it's nothing but like you see the origins of Luthen and why he is the way he is. I think that would totally disrupt the show, but I'd be down for it.
It would disrupt it, but that'd be interesting.
Alexander Skarsgård.
Yeah. No, I'd be curious what drives him to be the way that he is, because he's unhinged, man.
I mean, in the vein of Andor, maybe just a Luthen series after this, like.
Oh my god!
Just do the same
a prequel Luthen series.
Dude, you're asking for so much out of Star Wars fans. Let's take Andor, like a side character of Andor, a side character of a spin-off movie, and do a spin-off of a side character on Andor.
Would you watch it?
I would watch it.
Yeah, maybe there'd be 10 of us watching, but
who's your favorite character this season? Like, whose storyline is it? Like, is the one that you find yourself most interested in when they go back to it? Because there's so much happening.
I mean, I love Luthen.
Is it Luthen?
I just think like exactly what Garrett said. Like, he is sort of like a necessary evil at this point, and I think like it just the show strips away the idea of like the rebellion as this like pure good entity that will never do anything wrong, and like it gets to the reality of war, which is that no matter which side you're on, like there are going to be huge atrocities committed. Like even if you look at something like World War II, the most justified war of all time, like massive atrocities committed by the Allies, by the British, by the French, by the Canadians. Every war the Canadians are psycho. By us, like the firebombing of Dresden, like stuff like that, where it's just like it's unimaginable, like horror, but it is pushing towards the end goal, which is quote unquote justified. So like that to me is the interesting bit of war, because just saying, oh, we're the good guys and we'll never get shot and we can just fly through the bad guys and there's no problem and the ending's all happy. Like that's not, it doesn't feel real. And I think it's hard to get invested in that. So I also love Mon Mothma, because I think Mon Mothma feels very real, and I think she feels like, I said it before, but I think he feels like a Bernie Sanders, or if you're a conservative, like a Rand Paul, someone that's going to voice their opinion, right? And they might push for bills that they know won't be approved, or they know won't actually be successful, but they still will stand on business and say what they think. They're refusing to, and especially when you look at the world, like you look at Coruscant and how much wealth they have and how every day is a party and they're surrounded by art and money and architecture and all this beautiful stuff. And like, it's very much, I think that's very much the way that like fascism tends to love the perception of like culture, right? Like it's you know, I made a comp between Krennic and Hans Landa, and I feel like it's a very similar thing where they like to be perceived as like high class, you know, kind of calling back to like great like the culture that came before them, the stuff that they try to push forward, that they try to call back to. And I think like the show shows that really well and how good Mon Mothma has it, but she's willing to put all that aside and still be part of the rebellion and still say this is wrong and do what she can, despite the fact that she's just fighting a losing battle.
Yeah.
And I like the way that she, looking at her and her husband together, he's so annoying. I like that dynamic. But yeah, I like her story as well.
You know, one character I never thought I'd be so interested in is freaking Cyril.
Yes.
I never thought I would even be interested in anything that's happening in this guy's life, but he's like low key doing good for himself, like very quietly, and it's just interesting to see. His relationship with Dedra is the funniest thing to me, though. I saw it coming, obviously, from what happened in season 1, but I thought it was so funny, especially when he came home, and they only had an hour, but before he knew that, just like when they greet each other, like not even like a normal kiss, it was like this little cheek thing, and then, but then they found out they had an hour, and she was just like, hit the lights.
I'm just curious what that would have been. I'm curious if the Star Wars haters would have liked a scene between Dedra and Cyril, whatever happened there.
No, I'm actually so glad they didn't show that.
Well, it's. I think that Cyril's mother is such a. She seems like ripped out of another. Like she's the most character that I feel like we have. She just seems
animated.
Yeah, she seems so out of the box, and I really love that. That is the one. If she feels like a character that would be in like George Lucas's Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I like that we have just a little bit of that here. But the fact that Cyril, it's an interesting side of the Empire, and I thought that we see that from the very beginning of season 1. He's just a guy who is in a position, working a career, who's trying to be good at his job. That is his number one thing. He's trying to do well for himself, trying to achieve more and more at his career. Obviously, he's working for the Empire, kind of. I mean, what is there's like the different layers of the Empire. Who are the people who come in and like barge in and
that's the thing. He's not even working for the Empire. He's working for like the corporate security.
Right.
No, it is the Empire, but it's just a different bureau.
Right.
The ISB is the Intergalactic Security Bureau or some shit like that.
Intergalactic sons of bitches. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then his is the Bureau of crap. I can't remember. It's like transport. I can't remember. But whatever.
Right.
It's just a different section of it. Basically, he's just not the police force, essentially.
And what does he think he's? I mean, there's a lot going on, and I guess I'll ask you guys this for more clarification because you just even watched it last night. What does he think that he's doing on Gorman? I know he thinks he doesn't know what is going to happen. I don't believe, right? Dedra, and also I want to say one of the most underrated performances of this is. I think it's Anton Lesser as Major Partagaz, the guy who's like the leader of her little like imperial court. Like, he's always got like a smug look on his face, got the gray slick back hair. I love him and everything he's doing. But Cyril doesn't know what their intentions are. I think he just thinks that he's there as an informant.
Yes.
Okay.
He doesn't know what their intentions with Gorman are. He just knows that Gorman is of interest to the Empire. And he's there to get information on rebel activity.
Yeah. Got to pay attention. Got to put that phone down.
For real.
My bad. Maybe I picked up my phone at that moment.
I think what's interesting with Cyril is like he feels. I think he feels very real, like in today's world. Like he's incredibly lonely. I think his mother, first of all, Catherine Hunter is always awesome. She's such a like, she's just a great actor. I mean, she was in Macbeth. She was in Poor Things. Like she's an incredible actor. And I think it's funny. She feels like that old lonely person that sits around and watches Fox News or watches propaganda and just fucking spouts it out and just that's who she is. And I feel like she pours that into her son. And he's also just this like lonely, lost person who is trying to be part of anything. And I feel like he's someone that could be part of the rebellion if they had gotten to him. And he had the right person in his ear. He has no sense of self. He has no self-respect. He just wants validation. He wants someone to be like, good job, man. And that's sad to me. And I think, he's someone that and Kyle Solar's performance is awesome. In the last group of episodes, I found myself hoping that he would maybe start to change or start to listen to them and actually turn. And I still feel like maybe that could happen. If he finds out something terrible is going to happen, maybe. But at the same time, he has this like need for validation that's so strong. And now I feel like Dedra just like has her claws into him, and like I feel like that's another motivation for him to like be part of this. It's just like, oh, I need to like make Dedra proud and happy and like help her out. So, and she is just, I mean, she's not going to be redeemed. But the show is interesting in the way that it makes you like not cheer for the villains, but it shows you their struggle. Like with Cyril and Dedra, like you see Dedra be essentially looked down upon as a woman in the Empire, right? And like she is an underdog, and like she's trying to advance her career when so many people are standing in her way and like poo-pooing her, but she's willing to, she has a clear vision of what's actually happening, and she's actually intelligent. So while you're not cheering for her, it's willing to show you her struggle and make you sit with their characters, and that's interesting to me.
I think it's interesting too that shows how good of a villain and smart Krennic is, because I think even at that opening meeting, like Krennic knows how smart Dedra is. I was like, I wanted to know what you thought about all this, and she's like, yeah, you need to actually like a legit rebellion there to like put your fist down. He's like, oh yeah, you're kind of right. I'm gonna put you in charge.
When she said that, I low-key thought they were going to grab, they were just going to get some ISB officers and plant them as like a fake rebellion and do it under like the guise that they're rebels. And that's the most controlled kind of rebellion that you can have, is like self-sabotage, have like, fake rebel attacks with your own agents.
False flag.
Yeah. I don't know why they didn't do that. That seems like instead of like enticing actual rebels to do stuff, which is a little bit less predictable, but
that would have been getting a little too close to real life, maybe. But I think it is interesting because what Dedra thinks about Gorman is very similar to what Luthen thinks about Gorman. And I think what you're going to see is it's going to just be a miscalculation by the Empire. Like what they're going to do there, they have this ego and this sense of like power, and they're going to think we're going to do this and people are going to be more afraid and they're going to pipe down. And when they're actually going to do, if whatever atrocity they commit is going to have the opposite effect, and Luthen will end up being correct. But I think she's thinking the same way, right? Like allow them to get some confidence, allow them to do something, then we're going to stomp the fuck out of them, right? And they'll stop. So I think it's funny to see just like both of them kind of being on the opposite sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting because there's so much focus on Gorman in this season, right? And I think even the fact that Luthen and Mothma are on Coruscant, I think everything kind of comes back to Gorman and focuses on that, even with Andor and Bix being on Coruscant. I wonder if the Saw Gerrera storyline and with Willman, if that's going to factor in there at all, because that feels like the one they are showing you a different side of the rebellion, especially with Saw Gerrera. And I mean, I love Forrest Whitaker, but that's the only one I'm like, how is that going to tie in? It more feels like, hey, this was a guy from Rogue One. It'd be cool to see his like origins and see more of this character. And obviously it's that iconic actor. And man, they're giving him like some hard ass lines to say, as in like hard, like as it goes hard, like Forrest Whitaker's like nailing it. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, take that shit in, man. He's like, I was like, let's go. So I'm curious if that'll come back.
Do you think I'm crazy? I am crazy. I was like, you are fucking crazy.
I feel like he's there also to show like the just straight up like militant side of the rebellion that are like actually getting active and like
Yeah.
about that because you need to have some element of that. So
Dude, do you think he
um,
planted that device on that guy? That's what I thought.
That's what.
I
Yes.
thought that as soon as, because he's like, I really want this kid, but I can't have this kid if this guy's still alive. So let me just like plant this on him and just take him out. That's
Yeah.
as soon as he killed him.
yeah,
That's what I thought.
I think
I don't.
so.
I don't trust a damn thing Saw does. I don't trust anything he does, bro. He does whatever he wants for his own purposes. He's like Luthen in that sense. But yeah, no, I 100% that he said traitor. I was like, traitor?
Traitor.
He did nothing, bro. What are you talking about?
Dude, I mean, that's like one of the probably like the most iconic character I would say besides maybe Krennic. Obviously, we have Andor, but when Saw Gerrera like popped up in Rogue One, you're like, who is this guy? And just the way he talks and the way that Forrest Whitaker like handles himself. And I'm glad that we're getting more of them. I like I said, I'm curious if they'll somehow factor into what Gorman does in Retaliation. I wonder if Gerrera comes in. It's like, let's take one final push against the Empire together. We'll see.
Yeah. Guerrero is very famous for not liking to work with other people. Like his rebellion is his own. He doesn't like answering to anybody, so that's why he's so reluctant to accept help and to assist others. Like he just wants to do his own thing.
Yeah, and I think that's like so much of what the show is getting at is like a rebellion is not necessarily worthwhile if it's fractured. And I think there's a lot of real world parallels to that in terms of like divisiveness in within groups of people that are all technically on the same side. But I wanted to say also about Saul, I think seeing the like Rhydonium sequence, I think that's cool because Rhydonium also, when you abuse it, supposedly like fucks up your vocal cords and your voice. So I feel like the reason his voice sounds like that is because he was huffing that shit all the time, which is kind of funny to have like an actual explanation of like why he sounds like this kind of ridiculous.
Wait, he's got that shit like right by him in like Rogue One, right? He's like, let's do this thing. Like he's all on it. And there's like shows you like the origins of what that was actually.
Yeah.
Why is the impression like pretty accurate?
That's the thing. I didn't realize this, but I'll own up to it. There's like a whole compilation that Connor, our co-host, like puts together. I like doing impressions. I think it's fun.
Oh,
now, I was good.
Yeah, I love.
I tried Alexi for a little bit. I can't do Alexi. I don't know why I can't do Russian. I was gonna maybe do that for Thunderbolts, but I can't. Maybe I can do it. Yes, but that's about all I got. I can't do Alexi that well.
I was going to ask too. What do you guys think of? I think Adria Arjonia is doing a really nice job in the show, and I think Bix is a really good character on her own, but also to help humanize Cassian a little bit and like show you that he's like not a fucking robot because Cassian plays everything so close to the chest. Like he is we talked about Luthen. Cassian's a manipulator. Like that's what he is. He will say anything. He's a fast talker. He knows how to work people and situations, and like that's how he gets through life. So I think seeing her and seeing him have to drop that to have like an actual human connection is cool. I think people were upset about the like sexual assault scene. How did you guys feel about that in general?
I mean, it's never a comfortable thing to watch, but I mean, I think it was just another thing that just added to how real and dark this show can be. I mean, because that especially with a character like Bix, who's an attractive person, like that's gonna happen. Like this is a tyrannical government. This is a rebellion. Like this type, like it's not pretty. Like we have, like you were talking about, we have ugly shit on both sides, and that is definitely something that happens. So, I mean, yeah, and as much as I'm happy that Bix socked him in the face, and we didn't have I'm glad it went down the way that it did, with her, just overpowering him. But yeah, I don't know about necessary, but I think it was another good element that they added to the show.
I think what we're seeing with Bix is we see so much of the Empire, obviously in the show, but I think what we're seeing it is with her is the most personal level you can make it. Like, how has this affected someone psychologically? How does the Empire stick with you? And how can it continue to affect you in different ways. It seemed very, I mean, it's immigration and, give me your documents. You don't got your documents. You can do it a different way.
Yeah.
I don't think it seemed off-putting for Star Wars because it seems like something that a man would do to a woman, no matter what country, no matter what universe you live in. I need
Yeah.
something from you. You can't give me it. Maybe there's another reason or another way that we can make this work out. No, you don't want that. Well, I have a gun. I'm a man.
Yeah.
I have more power over you. I'm gonna make it happen anyways. So it
Yeah.
felt very natural, no matter what universe it takes place in. But yeah, I think what we're seeing from her is I don't know if I agree, Dan, with you saying the fact that I think that Luthen's going to look at Bix as a liability when it comes to Andor being efficient. I don't know. I guess I want to think positive for one split second when it comes to this show, and I think that's very hard to do. But I hope that we do get to see them work together as a team, not only for our personal benefit, but I do think, and we could talk about who's going to maybe die in this show, because that's the thing about the show that people say is a flaw, is maybe everyone who is in Rogue One or everyone that isn't in A New Hope, we know they're going to die. That doesn't necessarily always mean the case. Luthen could just fly off and just live wherever he wants at the end of this.
Bad argument, I think.
Yeah. But I think that I would more want to see a real personal connection between Andor and Bix, because I think that would do a lot for Bix. She doesn't necessarily need a man, to give her like purpose or anything, but just to feel like loved by someone, I think is a very powerful connection. And I think that that's something that the audience can really gravitate towards, because their relationship has been built up as the seasons have gone on. They've gotten closer and closer to one another, even though they were already somewhat friends at the very beginning. So I would love to see their relationship flourish successfully when it comes to them taking charge against the Empire. But I do think that possibly maybe we lose her at the end of this series, which then drives Andor to do what he does in Rogue One.
That's been my fear. That's been my fear this whole time with Bix. I was like, I have a feeling Bix is not going to make it out of this because, I mean, what motivates a person more like the loss of a loved one like that? Especially with what he does in Rogue One. So, I swear, Bix has been going through it in this damn show, though, man. Like, they have not given her a break for a freaking second. I think that's also why the end of episode 6 in this new season was so satisfying. Is because I was like, all right, finally, no more nightmares. You got that guy out of here.
Hopefully, yeah. Maybe she killed that guy, but maybe she'll start having nightmares about the man. I mean, I guess she did. She won't have nightmares, hopefully, about the guy that, tried to sexually assault her, because she killed him too. So good. Yeah. We got both of them out of there. That's what they deserve.
Yeah. She's overcoming her PTSD with murder.
Yeah, I think she definitely could still be haunted by him, even if he's dead because of what he did to her.
For sure.
But I also think, Stone, we already saw a conversation with Luthen basically calling out Cassian because of Bix. I think we saw that at the end of episode 5 or 6. They already kind of started having that conversation. I honestly feel like we could end up with some type of Walt, Jesse, Jane scenario, and obviously not exactly like that, but in a way where maybe he has knowledge of something, and whether he just thinks she's in the way, or I think if Luthen could think that Cassian would be driven more by her death, I literally think he would allow that to happen. But we'll find out. I mean, there's 6 episodes left. That would be rough. I feel like some type of conflict is coming between Luthen and Cassian. I think Luthen's going to die. I think Bix is going to die.
Is there anybody that survives this besides Mon Mothma and Cassian? Is there anybody else who's in the... I don't think so. I mean, obviously Krennic, but... Does Deidre die? Does Cyril die? Luthen? Okay, Bix gone. Luthen gone. Deidre gone. Cyril gone. Vel, she's going to be gone. Brasso's already gone. Cinta's already gone. Clea, I love Clea. I love how much more she's having to do. Luthen's right-hand girl.
Yeah.
She might be gone. Perrin, we don't care about Perrin. Mon Mothma's husband, he can go. That's all I got here. So, are they all dead? Guess we'll find out.
I think Cyril and Dedra could survive. It wouldn't really matter. They just keep doing their jobs. But I don't have a lot of hope for our heroes.
I think what's going to happen is, do you think Dedra cares at all about Cyril?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that what's going to happen is Cyril's going to die on Gorman, and that's going to drive Dedra over the edge a little bit. And she's going to realize what she has done, and she has caused this because he is there. I think that's what we're in store for. That's my theory.
I like that theory.
Yeah, that would be interesting. How did you guys feel about Cinta's death or that sequence?
I think it felt cheap, but I think I think that was kind of the point. Because Vel, clearly she was like, Cinta, she was a warrior. She was this amazing person, an amazing rebel. And because of your dumbass who brought a gun, who brought a blaster, this amazing person is gone because you couldn't follow a simple order of we are the only ones who have blasters. So I think it was intended to feel cheap like that. Because I was like, the second I heard that blaster go off, I was like, I knew exactly who got shot before they even revealed it.
I love that they hammered it home too, like because these people haven't been in rebellion before, and I think that's so interesting to see these people who have been organized like this. And they're like, we realize what you guys are trying to do, and it's the right thing. But you have to realize this is how this stuff works, and you need to follow orders. You cannot be a part of a rebellion if you do not listen to what we say. And that was such a good moment in that little area where they're all listening to the two of them.
Yeah, that briefing was good.
But man, when she's racking on him at the end, like this shit's gonna be on you like skin, and I was like, ooh, like she's just calling his ass out. I was like, what she's saying right now is real, and good writing, man.
I loved it. She was like, making fun of him for crying. She's like, are you crying right now after what you just did? You don't deserve to cry. I deserve to cry, but I'm not because I'm not a sniveling bitch like you are.
Imagine the writing just goes out the window. She's like, I'm not a sniveling bitch like you. Imagine she said that.
I will say, I thought that sequence to me felt a little bit like forced conflict. I think, first of all, the big burly guy that walks up, he's not against them. You literally saw him speaking with them. Like, I think, like, I struggled to believe how that wouldn't have been a conversation like, hey, man, we're doing some shit here. Just walk away. Like, we got something going on. And the guy would be like, cool. Also, why? That's one thing. Second thing is pulling your gun in that situation when there's no shot he's going to shoot that man. There's zero reason or zero way that he ever would have shot that guy. So, like, why even pull the gun? I also said, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, well, I think that's highlighting the freshness.
But they like know each other. Like those guys know each other.
He just wanted to be the guy. He wanted to be the dude. Like that was literally the whole point of this. Like she was talking about that. Like Cinta was everything that you daydream about being.
Yeah, he wants to be like the hero.
Yeah, he wanted to be. Yeah, he just wanted to be the dude, and that was the whole point of this. And like, oh, what makes me feel like a man? I'm gonna pull out my blaster, and that's gonna make me important. And look what happened.
Yeah, I do agree about the guy being there in the first place, though. It doesn't really make sense that there's like some conflict, and they couldn't just explain like, hey, just go that way. And then he's on the same side as them. I think they could have easily rewrote that to have someone who was maybe opposing. Yeah. Like someone who's part of Gorman who doesn't think that the Empire's there has.
Or maybe you saw in a scene saying like, y'all like maybe supporting the Empire or something like that.
Yeah.
But I also think,
or maybe like how like half of the maybe it's like a split community where they talk about like half the citizens believe this, half the citizens don't.
Which could have been really interesting, I think. And I also think, and this is maybe too dark for the show, when that guy does that, I think Vel should have literally shot him on the spot. Like, I think if you're in a rebellion and you gave a direct command and that person disobeyed it and your girlfriend dies, like, just kill that guy. And you want to send a message to people around you, like, he disobeyed an order, you're part of a violent rebellion, like, just shoot him. That's what I, like, maybe would have done. I don't know if that would fit in this show, but, like...
I think that subtracts too much humanity from the Empire, or from the rebellion. I mean, imagine if Luthen just... Imagine if Luthen says the stuff about Gorman. Imagine if Luthen is the one doing the killing to Gorman. He's not necessarily doing the killing. He doesn't necessarily care. I think that you have to have some humanity in the rebellion. You can't show someone who's trying to fight for good or is on the side of good just killing someone.
I disagree. I think that's what the whole show is about. I think it's about more so like, because on the next mission, no one's going to not listen to you. Like, no one's going to fuck up like that. And like, that could have escalated in a way where it got them all killed. And I think like that's the like pretty hero aspect of this, that we all have this concept of like what it should look like. That is not reality. So I think like the show is actively trying to do that. So I don't think it really would have been out of place. I think the only thing that is maybe a counterpoint to what I'm saying is like Vel is such a disciplined leader, and she's also very hardened and probably like disassociated to an extent, that like she can just put her feelings away for a second and just be like, I'm going to keep moving here and then come back to it later. So I understand it from that angle. I just wouldn't have been mad because that guy's a fucking dumbass. So.
Like, she doesn't cry, right? That kind of like goes along with what you're saying. Like, she's so disassociated that
she's like, this is war. You
Yeah.
know, this person's gone. It is what it is. Like, you know, but she understands at the same time how fucking dumb it was.
I think she also understands that like they're not really in a position to get rid of numbers of
Yeah, that's fair.
That's supporting their cause.
Yeah.
Because like they're in the early stages. They do not really have a lot of people going for them. What would you guys think if that blaster didn't hit Cinta, but somehow like rocketed off and went and hit Cyril watching from that rooftop?
I would have been sad because no offense to Cinta, but I like him better. But that would have been funny. I will say one thing too to add is, would the Gormans follow like Val if they did more missions together if she killed him? Like I think that they have like a united allegiance to her now because they feel like they owe her, and they will 100% follow orders now. But if she straight up just killed that guy, I think there would be a lot of hesitation there, and maybe they couldn't build this rebellion that they're trying to.
Yeah, it would be, and if they did follow orders, it would definitely be built out of fear rather than like you said, like they feel like they owe her,
like a weird respect because what she said, like they have a weird respect for her now because what she said would happen happened because they did not listen to her. Now they will 100% follow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I necessarily agree with that, but I see where you're coming from.
Well, I mean, they didn't want to see Cinta dead any more than Vel did. Like they know it was because he was just an idiot and did not follow orders exactly like it's literally I told you so. And so now for future reference, when you think about questioning me, shut up and listen.
I was just thinking about it. One thing that they've talked about so much in this show, I think it would be so easy to do it, but they did show it. Never mind. I was saying we haven't seen the spiders. They've been like the carcasses of them basically, but we do see a spider for a split second when Cassian goes into that little shop and they're having that little secret meeting and you see one in the cage. But I like everything with the spiders. I think that's such an interesting inclusion that this planet is nothing but for fashion and silk and stuff like that. That's such a cool thing to add to the world.
I think this show does a really good job with just like culture in general. Like with the wedding that they had on Chandrilla and Gorman with the spiders. I'm like, there was a lot of thought that went into this and like these traditions and like what kind of culture these people have. I think it's really cool how much thought they put into it.
That's a duck take right there. That's a duck take.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, even with the aspect of the like the ceremony, I forget the planet that they're on. Which planet is that? Episode 6 of the Vault episode.
That's tough.
I couldn't
You're not even talking about this season. Yeah. The only planet I can remember is Gorman.
There's so many names. Aldani. Okay.
Yeah, but like even having that aspect of like, you know, their culture and like the Empire having to weigh how much they respect their culture and how much they allow them to, you know, go about their customs and their traditions and all, like, and weighing that as like a tactical thing, like that was also interesting to me. And I think like, you know, people might say this isn't like Star Warsy enough. We've seen a lot of planets. We've seen a lot of unique stuff. We've seen a lot of like, you know, different characters or different personalities. Like I feel like there is still a good amount of like Star Wars in this, and I feel like every place we go to has a very different aesthetic. And like, I also wanted to say, just to go along with that, this show is willing to like build sets and shoot on location. You know, they went to England and Scotland, etc. Like Tony Gilroy has talked a lot about not wanting to just use like volume and have everything look fucking computer generated. Like he wants to have an environment that feels tangible, and like that makes stuff so much better. And when you couple that with these characters and the writing and like the themes and like how timely this show is. I just think it's so hard to beat. But I love that they are willing to do that as well and not just, phone it in and make everything CG.
You really feel that in Gorman too. I remember when Cyril was like walking through that big courtyard. I'm like, wow, this is an actual place where he's at right now. This is a huge area with a lot of extras, and you really feel like the size of it. But when you were talking about the cultures that they do so well with like building and creating here, one thing that I remember, and also this ties back to something in season 2 as well, but is the fact that we were talking about rewatching it before we jumped on, Garrett, and the fact that Andor, when you see his flashbacks of the very first couple episodes of season 1, they're speaking in another language, but you don't see subtitles. When he's on that planet with like the younger in the Empire, like comes and crashes his ship.
Minari.
Yeah, and I think that's such an interesting choice. But the fact that I also saw this this news story about this, and I don't know if you saw this, Dan. This will really interest you. But Gorman is a fake language that they derive it from French, though.
Yep,
it sounded like French, yeah.
And all the actors who are from Gorman are French actors, which is why they're able to play it off so well, which I thought was a really nice touch.
Yeah, and I think when you look at like the people there, like they're clearly modeled after like the French Resistance and like with their whole aesthetic, which I think is a cool, if you want to draw a parallel to, World War II and like and all that, I think it works. But they feel like they have their own distinct culture, which is cool.
What's been your favorite moment so far of season 2? I feel like we've been talking about this so long, maybe we should start wrapping up. What is the moment that stands out to you?
Favorite moment? I mean, like you said, I got end of episode 6 on my brain right now, so that's a great moment. I love that. To be honest,
that art room scene.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the art room scene was so good. Oh my god, dude! And when I saw her hand start bleeding,
I wanted to say that, dude.
I was like, oh my god.
And the piece too. They're adding so much depth and layer to a random art piece. It's like what, like a blind culture of people, like you said, and he's like explaining it to her, and that dude who's like part of the Empire, who's like a secret plug in there. He's so good, and he's like, when he started sweating, I was like, oh shit, they're gonna see him sweating, and Krennic's gonna kill them all, and such good tension.
Yeah. No, the tension. My heart was pounding during that entire scene. It was so good.
And Mothma, I mean, it's such a true thing too, Dan. You can say this to history too, because I know you know a lot about it. But the fact that certain people who are in charge of, I mean, it's what we're seeing right now with the education system, is people will control what is said about history. And the fact that the Empire had a really difficult time against these people, and it was a great battle, and Mothma's like, no, you
tried to frame it differently. Yeah,
you slaughtered them. It was not a battle at all. You literally obliterated all of them. Oh man, that exchange between, I mean, and Ben Mendelsohn is such a good actor. I love him so much. So it's so entertaining to watch.
History is written by the victors.
Yeah, and I think like I love that conversation. So I'm glad you called that out because I thought that was great, and I think, when you look throughout history, the differentiation between terrorist and freedom fighter and rebel, like that differentiation is made normally by, the people on the outside or the people that win. And I think I just thought that was a really good scene and cool to see how, like, so much of how the Empire talks and like what they put out is just like propaganda essentially, right? And I think that's, and even, there are ways that they talk in the first scene when they're talking about first episode of season 2 and talking about Gorman, they're talking about like spiders and this and that. Like they've used a lot of like, and in season 1 they talked about like the rebellion being like germs and a virus and this and that. And it's like all dehumanizing stuff to like avoid actually treating these people as human beings. And I feel like that's very telling as well.
Dude, the fact that they're having like that little lunch, having like a little lunch talking about obliterating like an entire planet and just like harvesting their minerals. I'm like, man, it's haunting stuff. And something that I found a little bit off-putting, like Star Wars, like, oh, this doesn't belong in my Star Wars kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but when they like did that little commercial for Gorman, I was like, I wasn't expecting a trailer for a planet, and I thought that was a little interesting, and it reminded me of the beginning of, I know you guys talked about it in your podcast, but Severance, where they had like that little trailer for like what Lumen is, and this is Lumen,
Yeah.
and Keanu Reeves is voicing it. That like
Uh-huh.
beginning of season 2, they had that for Severance. Now the beginning of season 2 for Andor, they have like a little trailer for Gorman. I thought that was really interesting.
I liked it.
I thought it was funny. I think it feels very like propaganda movie ish.
Oh yeah.
Like I think it worked.
Favorite moment, Dan. Season 2. I feel like it's easy to say the end of season 6 or episode 6, but
there's not that much to choose from. I think I would focus less on the heist. I'll say more so the entire sequence in the art gallery. I feel like having Krennic there gave that a very intense feel. That's where I kind of started thinking about Hans Landa and like the intensity he adds to Inglourious Basterds when he was there. Like, I feel like it actually felt like there were stakes, and having Luthen there, like having all those characters and appreciate it was a good scene, and I liked that conversation you mentioned as well.
I'll do Mothma crashing out. I mean, it's a beautiful scene.
Genevieve O'Reilly is so fucking good in this show. Like every actor is so good. But like, I mean, her and Denise Gow, like they're both Irish actors. I fucking love both of them. They're so good. She's awesome.
Good show, man.
I say another great moment was definitely that conversation between Luthen and Cassian on the ship after he picked him up from Gorman. I like that conversation a lot.
Dude, when he shows up at the art gallery and he's like breaking code and he's like, "Oh, thank you for this piece, good sir." And Andrew's like, "Shut the fuck!" Like, no, we're not doing that shit right now. I was like, "Oh no."
He's like, "Fuck protocol. I'm talking to you."
Yeah.
Oh man, that was so good.
The when he makes it, we didn't talk about it at all, but like all of Cassian's like acting on Gorman, like first of all, the scene with the bellhop is wonderful, and like he actually gets the history of what's happening, and he breaks character to like have empathy, and then when he meets the daughter of the guy who's running the Gorman front, and she's just like immediately like, "Okay, what's the deal?" Blah blah blah, and he's like, "I could be fucking ISB, like you moron," like and basically breaks his character there, and then goes right back into it. And that's where he says to her, like, rushing gets people killed, or basically something like that. That's a great scene, and I think adds some more context to Gorman and their frustration there and how desperate they are. But that also sets up how he ends up feeling towards what they're doing, and that leads into the conversation he has with Luthen. So that was all really good stuff too.
Whoops. Any predictions for the end of the season? I guess I already gave mine, but I know there's like some event that happens on Gorman that people are. I mean, obviously we can see that in the show, but something really tragic and huge that happens. So
there's got to be like because they need something to spark the rebellion. I think it is going to be exactly like Luthen talked about. They're gonna burn brightly, and that's going to be that's going to be what sparks the rebellion for sure.
What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I agree, and I just think a lot of death, and I think conflict between Luthen and Cassian. I that's what I feel.
Andor's depressing. It is a depressing show. Not a lot of bright spots in it,
man. Dude, all the big scenes up until the final scene of episode 6, I was just sad watching what she's going through. Like she's becoming an addict on these drugs. I'm like, God, man.
I mean, it's cool to see how big that Adriana Arjona has like become from this. Even after like season 1, like she's a phenomenal actress, and I'm happy that she's having the success she is. Well, fan casting that she'd be Wonder Woman. I don't mind that. I see that floating around there every now and then, but I'd be down.
I also, I said, fuck, I don't even want to say this. I said the Walt Jane Jesse thing. I think they could literally almost be that with the drugs that he's giving her. I think he could do something to them. Like,
I figured that's what you meant, literally, because she was on the drugs.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's going to be rough, man.
All right, we'll clip this. We'll put a timestamp on it and like the date and be like, Dan thinks that Luthen's going to poison Vix and kill her. Dan, that'd be so... Oh, man, that'd be tough. I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm down now. I'm excited.
I was afraid it was already gonna happen. Like when I saw her taking him, I thought like Cassian was gonna come home from Gorman to find Bix OD'd in the apartment.
Do you
I was
think
gonna be so sad.
Cassian kills Luthen and finds out? Ooh, do you think so? No, we got to know from Garrett. Okay.
I don't know. Honestly, I feel like you really could go any which way with this show, which is part of the reason why
Exciting.
it's so great. Yeah,
This show is boring.
Yeah,
Real boring.
so boring.
All right, I changed what game that we would do. I was going to do comments that talk about critiques of the show, and we can go against it. But I came up with something funner, more fun, because the show is so dark. So I came up with and or. Right, that's the name of the game. Really, really fun. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put two names against each other, names of characters from the show, and you have to tell me whose name goes harder. And we'll do like a little bracket and see who has the hardest name, the best name of anybody in Andor.
Okay.
All right. So these are the two first names. We got Mon Mothma or Kino Loy.
Kino Loy.
I vote Mon Mothma.
Oh shoot! Okay, I gotta be the.
Oh yeah, you gotta be the tiebreaker.
I'll go Mon Mothma. Mothma.
All
right.
I like
the alliteration is crazy. Can't lie.
All right, next. I love this because it's the only one I have on here that's just one name. Brasso, right? Just one name. Brasso or Saw Gerrera.
Saw Gerrera.
Saw.
Okay. All right.
That's a badass name.
All right. We have Orson Krennic. I like that his first name is Orson. Orson Krennic or Perrin Firtha.
I would go Orson. Yeah.
Krennic. All right. Lay it on there. Next, Arvel Skeen. Who is that? Hold on. I looked up Arvel Skeen. Where's he from? I looked at these names beforehand. Oh well. Arvel Skeen or Ruskat Melshi. Where are these fucking names from?
Oh my god.
Arvel Skeen is Ebon Moss Bakara, the guy from the Bear. He's the guy on Odani.
Oh, okay, yeah. And these are people from season 1 as well.
Yeah.
My bad.
I remember Skeen. The traitor. The one who said that Cassian and him should split the money.
Yes, guys. Yeah.
Arvel Skeen or Ruskat Melshi. I guess Arvel Skeen.
Skeen, yeah.
Yeah.
Dan, it's funny too because Dan knows I'm not really great at pronouncing stuff, so I could make it be pronounced these like so wrong. All right, and then we got these are the last two. So we have Deidre Miro or Tim Carlo.
I like Dedra personally.
Dedra, my bad. See, I can't even pronounce that right. That is like
fine.
It was poetic.
I'm gonna agree with Dedra.
All right. Here we go. Now we got next round. All right. So I didn't rank these like 1 through 16 like March Madness or nothing. So this is tough though. Mon Mothma or Saw Gerrera? Ooh.
Saw Gerrera. I'm gonna go Saw Gerrera.
Oh.
You guys love the alliteration. I feel like that's the only thing that's making it win right now.
Mon Mothma is just so sick. I'll go Saw Gerrera. I'll defer to that.
All right. Saw Gerrera moves on. All right. We got Orson Krennic or Arvel Skeen.
Krennic.
Yeah. Okay, I kind of liked Arvel Skeen. It was fun. Right.
Overruled.
Okay, we only have one more left, so I guess I'll have to come up. Let's do Cassian Andor. Okay. This bracket kind of doesn't work out, but it's okay. Cassian Andor or Dedra Miro.
Cassian.
I'll take Dedra.
I'll do Dedra. Okay. All right, I have to find. Okay, this doesn't really work out how I'm wanting it to. All right, so we'll go Orson Krennic or Dedra Miro.
Krennic.
Yeah, probably Krennic.
Okay, Krennic. All right. So we'll do, this is our number one seeds going against each other then, because I just skipped one because I already know he would have went on. So we got Saw Gerrera or Orson Krennic. Ooh. How lame that we're choosing characters that were already in Rogue One saying, but whatever.
They got cool names. Like, what can we say?
I'll take Krennic.
Orson Krennic or Saw Gerrera. I'll agree with Krennic, honestly. I think it's a very unique name.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I feel like Saw Saw Gerrera is like a little too obvious of how brutal that this kind of person is going to be. I mean, your first name is Saw. Like, come on.
I like that. That's so good. All right, they're here to hear on our first episode, our first game of Andor, first and last probably.
Ooh, I also
critic.
I also love when he's referred to as Director Krennic. I love that. Like how Darth Vader says Director Krennic. Careful not to choke on your aspirations. Love that.
Yeah.
So good. All right. Well, we know that he's going to make it to Rogue One, but not a whole lot of other people probably besides Andor and Saw. Look at that. The two people go to Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited. Maybe we can have this conversation. Maybe we could talk about the end of the show with you, and maybe Blake too if he catches up.
Yeah. No. He should be caught up by then.
So hopefully we got 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. He's got time.
And then it's gone forever. But that's what they say about good things.
So
I guess.
great stuff. Yeah.
They come and they go. But all right, everybody. If you liked Andor, if you hated it, Star Wars Theory. If you're here listening to us, drop what you think about the season in the chat down below in the comments. But appreciate Garrett you being here. But yeah, let us know your guys' opinion on season 2. What you think your best moment is. What you think the hardest name is. I think Arbel Skeen is pretty good, but we'll see. But anyways, thanks for listening to us talk about season 2, guys. We'll catch you later.